let me talk a little bit about our security strategy and how we think about security at Arista. So if I think about the two most compelling reasons customers engage with us for security, it comes down to the fact that visibility is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge, right? Especially as you've seen this explosion of devices on the network, the explosion of applications on the network, and an explosion of just connectivity. One of the things that we found in our own experience is that more than 50% of the devices that show up on networks these days are unmanaged. And what I mean by that is they don't have an EDR agent running. They don't have, necessarily, some kind of management agent running on that endpoint. And as a consequence, a lot of times, even though these devices might be, just standing in front of you, think about the Polycom in a conference room, or the TV in a conference room, the thermostat, you can see them, but you don't have that deep security insight into what that device is doing. But guess what? The attackers do. Right? And that's the other side of this problem that customers struggle with. The attackers are precisely targeting that expanded attack surface and using a whole set of techniques that no longer rely on malware. And so if I think about the other set of problems that we help customers with is really getting visibility into what you might think of as the middle of that kill chain. Right? Once the attacker is on the inside, or they've compromised an insider set of credentials, or in perhaps the worst case, it is a malicious insider to begin with. They don't have to use malware. They can use the business applications you already have deployed. Think about the Microsoft Office suite, or think about things like PowerShell or Python. That blends in with just activity going on the network in general. So how do you detect that one bad PowerShell activity, or how do you detect that one connection happening to Twitter that's actually being used for command and control as opposed to being just someone tweeting regularly? So those are the two most compelling problems that our customers relate to. And of course, the network does offer a really good vantage point to solve for both of those problems, because the network does see it all. So anything plugged into the network, is going to show up on the network. But then also the network really presents ground truth, right? Because the network does not lie. You can't really unsend a packet. You can delete files of an operating system. You can delete registry keys, but you can't unsend a packet. So the network does offer a great vantage point. But unfortunately, network security has become more and more cumbersome, right? We've added layers over layers of network security that become an entirely separate stack from the network itself. So how do we solve for this challenge? A lot of customers these days have started to have a conversation around zero trust, right? Like, what do we do so that we don't trust any of the devices, the users, the applications on the network? We assume that they are compromised. And then we make sure that our network, our infrastructure is resilient in spite of that fact. Well, zero trust is not a end destination. Zero trust is an ongoing journey, right? It's something that you have to constantly engage in. And it really starts with visibility. You've got to get an understanding of what's actually on the network. This diagram that you see in front of you is something that we pulled out of the NIST documentation on zero trust architecture. And as NIST documents go, this one's, not quite the page turner, right? But I think one of the things that was really insightful about this document is that it precisely lays out the fact that zero trust is an ongoing journey. And it has this feedback loop that starts with and, has that visibility that is core to it. But then after you've got that visibility, you can now start to monitor for who's doing things that they shouldn't, who's engaging in behaviors that should be intercepted or stopped. And once you've done that, you can now take action on an ongoing basis. So with the assets we have at Arista, we're actually able to support that ongoing journey for our customers. Starting with the visibility, as was said in the introduction, Arista is foundational to so many customer networks out there. What that gives us is deep visibility into what's actually on the network, and perhaps just as importantly, where is it plugged into? I can't tell you the number of customers that have said to us, look, pick your favorite breach, like Log4j, SolarWinds, etc. They tell us, look, I know we've got SolarWinds in our environment, but we can't find it. We don't know where it is plugged in. And that's the kind of visibility that our suite of products across products like CloudVision, DMF, and our Arista NDR product can give you that deep visibility. The NDR product is really how we do this continuous diagnostics and mitigation, as NIST calls it. This is where we're monitoring the network round the clock, watching all parts of the network, whether it's your cloud-based networks, whether it's your traditional campus, whether it's your data center, and really providing you insights into what activities are going on. And as I mentioned, we really focus on the middle of that kill chain, right? Once the attacker is on the inside, think about things like lateral movement, credential abuse, privilege escalation. Those are the kinds of things we really focus on because, unfortunately, that's the area we find most of our customers struggle to detect. And those activities can often be the harbingers of something really, really bad, right? Think about something like ransomware as an example. Ransomware doesn't get in and then instantly encrypt, right? It's going to use the time to find, okay, where are your key data sets? It's going to try and move that data set into a location where they can then be uploaded so that even if you're able to restore the encrypted data using your backups, they can still threaten to leak that data. Well, all of those activities from the attacker result in lateral movement. They result in privilege escalation. They result in activities that can be observed on the network. And that's really where our NDR product comes in. And then finally, you've identified something is bad. What do you do about it? This is where, through both our own innovations and working with our third-party partners, some of the preeminent names in the security space and in the IT infrastructure space, we can take action. We can block things on a firewall. We can inject ourselves into the virtual infrastructure. We can do segmentation on the network through our own switching infrastructure. So all of this comes together as part of how Arista brings the zero trust principles to our customers. But of course, technology by itself does not solve the problem. So we will also talk a little bit about our people. Before I talk about some of our services, though, I want to present a couple of different ways that customers have been implementing our technology. For more data center-oriented environments, we've brought together a solution called Arista DFX. This really combines and integrates the key features of our DMF product, which is our monitoring fabric, along with our NDR product. We've integrated the ability to have packet forensics done in a single place and to integrate the workflows really so that when you detect something in our NDR product, you're not having to pivot to a different screen. You have the relevant context, the relevant forensics available for you right there. We're also looking at other ways that we can enhance that workflow. On the campus side, as some of you might have seen, we just recently made a very, very exciting announcement where we've been able to bake our NDR agent, our NDR sensor, into the campus switches themselves. And what that allows our customers to do is that without having to deploy any additional hardware, simply by using their campus switching equipment, they can get this NDR capability delivered to them. And again, Gary will dive into a lot more detail about this product announcement and just how this fits into our overall NDR strategy. Our NDR portfolio really is comprised of two components. We've got the sensors. We just talked about one form factor for those sensors are the switches. But we can also deploy standalone sensors in virtual environments, in cloud environments, or just traditional hardware sensors. Those sensors collect data off the network. They do the full packet analysis. They can store those full packets if you like. But then about 1 to 3% of that data, depending on the protocol, actually makes its way to the nucleus. And this is where a lot of the AI magic happens. This is where we extract that data, extract the security sensitive aspects of that data, and do really three things. Firstly, identify what's actually on the network, right? Tell you what the devices are, what the users are, what the applications, how they interact with each other, so on and so forth. We then apply a bunch of modeling techniques to identify bad behavior, bad intent. Hey, why is this that this one particular device is engaging in credential theft? Well, how do we see that? We look deep into a Kerberos packet and we look for things like Kerberos error messages to see, okay, you know what, this particular device tried to make hundreds of connections and all of them failed with Kerberos failure codes. It speaks to why you have to look deeper into the packet than just metadata or just NetFlow. And then finally, unlike a lot of security tools out there, we didn't want to just stop at telling you something was wrong on the network. We wanted to enable you to then take action and investigate it. And if you think about what a typical investigator does, there's a number of questions that they ask. Okay, you see some command and control. You want to know who else is talking to that same domain. Are there other domains that are interesting because they have the same underlying hosting infrastructure or the same registration pattern? Are there other devices on my network that I've seen lateral movement to? Should I be looking at those? Well, Ava, our automated virtual assist, actually goes in and builds that complete picture for you and showcases how this threat might have manifested itself. So we're really trying to move our customers from threat response to looking at the attack as a whole, rather than looking at a specific alert. And then finally, as I mentioned, the people element of this. This is where Awake Labs, and Kevin's a great representative of that team, comes in. We've got a portfolio of services here that enable our customers in a variety of ways. I'll start in the middle, which is our managed network detection and response. So we have a number of customers that say, look, we love the platform, but we want you to manage it for us. And that management includes both the operational side of things, but also the security side of things, where folks like Kevin are engaged day in and day out, monitoring the customer's network, threat hunting on their behalf, and working hand in glove with the customer's security team to respond to these very, very quickly. And this is not something that you only see at the lower end of the market, where customers maybe don't have their own security team. We work with some of the biggest security operations centers on the planet, and they like this model because it gives them the expertise that really understands the product, and they don't have to become experts in every single product that they deploy in their environment. On the left and the right of this screen, what you see is our other portfolio of services. On the right is our emergency incident response, which we can engage for things like ransomware, business email compromise, insider threats. We also do digital forensics, and customers engage with us, by either having a retainer in place so that they can pick up the phone anytime something untoward happens, or unfortunately, in some cases, it's an emergency incident response type engagement. And on the left, you see the more proactive assessments. This is where we're coming in ahead of time and really helping them build their incident response muscle, if you will. See if there's existing compromises, or look for things like IoT devices that might be misbehaving, etc. So the goal really for Arista is to pull that technology that I talked about along with the people, and hopefully over the course of today, we'll give you a sense for where we are in that journey and how we're helping customers. So really, to wrap things up, Arista is very, very uniquely positioned to deliver scalable switch to security because we have every part of that stack, whether it's starting at the switch and CloudVision and the ability to manage those switches and give you that level of visibility, whether it's the packet broker that can deliver those packets to our NDR solution that then goes about applying a variety of techniques to detect some of the most sophisticated threats. And by combining these solutions, by embedding our sensors into the switches, by combining the goodness of our monitoring fabric with our NDR product, and then integrating with the rest of the ecosystem, we can deliver effective security.